All right, so you're ready for another deep dive. Awesome. Let's talk about Sasaki Kojiro.
Ooh.
Yeah, he's Sasaki Kojiro. A
Uh,
name that, echoes through history, right? Swordsman, duelist.
Legendary.
Exactly. Legendary. You've probably heard about the Tsubame Gaeshi,
Oh, of course.
right? His duel with Miyamoto Musashi.
Classic.
We've got a whole bunch of sources here, like historical records, modern analyses of his sword technique. We're going to try to separate fact from fiction. The real Kojiro.
Right, and he's not just this mythical swordsman. He's actually really symbolic of a shift, like from classical swordsmanship to a sort of innovative style.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we'll get into that.
Yeah.
His life, his school, his techniques, what it all means. For how people thought about combat, like how that changed.
Okay, let's rewind. Let's go back to the beginning.
Okay.
I mean, Kojiro's born into a samurai family.
Yeah.
It's practically like guaranteed you're learning swordsmanship from the moment you can walk, right?
Yeah, I mean that's true, but Kojiro's talent was something else. It went beyond, just family tradition. Even with wooden swords, he was naturally gifted.
Hmm.
And it really, it flourished when he moved to Kyoto.
Kyoto. I mean, talk about the center, the hub of all things martial arts.
Right.
So many different schools, different styles. That had to be like a crash course in innovation.
Exactly. It's like all these different approaches coming together, right? And
Yeah.
and Kojiro, he wasn't just copying the moves. He was really trying to understand the thinking behind them, the philosophy.
Oh, that's interesting. And so this is where the odachi comes in.
The odachi.
His signature weapon. So for folks who don't know, describe the odachi a little bit.
Well, think of it as like the great sword of the samurai world. It's longer than your typical katana, heavier, much harder to handle.
Most swordsmen wouldn't even try.
No, they'd stick to something more manageable.
It's like going into battle with a tree trunk, not just a branch,
Right, exactly. But for Kojiro, this was like the perfect tool. This is how he developed the Tsubame Gaeshi, the swallow counter.
So explain the technique. I mean, is it just about brute force with this massive sword?
No. It's much more about finesse, about deception. There are stories that say he was inspired by swallows, the way they fly.
Really?
Yeah, those quick changes in direction, how they kind of slice through the air.
Hmm.
So imagine a swordsman doing that, right? With an odachi, using the momentum to create this attack that's unpredictable. It's like a whirlwind.
Wow. It's like he took a disadvantage, that big heavy sword, and turned it into like a surprise attack.
Right, turning it into an advantage. And that's how he won so many duels.
Yeah, I mean, including the one against Toda Saigen, right?
Toda Saigen.
The master of the short sword. That had to be a clash of styles.
Oh, absolutely. That was a huge deal. I mean, defeating Saigen, a master like that, cemented his reputation,
And this is where his own school comes in, the
Ganryu, the school of the swallow's stone. Even the name itself is interesting,
Right, yeah, it's kind of like contradictory.
It is. You've got the swallow, right, representing agility, speed. Then you've got the stone, which is about strength, being immovable.
So he's bringing together opposite ideas.
Exactly, like combining the best of different worlds. And that's what the Ganryu was about, It wasn't just about the physical techniques. It was a mindset, discipline, fluidity, You adapt to your opponent, but you stay grounded in your own strength.
That's a really powerful concept.
Right. And it resonated with a lot of samurai, even high-ranking ones. They sought him out, wanted to learn.
And it wasn't his only teaching role. I mean, he was a fencing instructor for the Hosokawa clan, right?
Yes, he was. And that says a lot about his standing. A powerful clan like that trusting him to train their warriors.
So he is not just a skilled fighter, but a respected teacher and mentor.
Yeah. Seems like he was great at balancing, tradition and innovation, not just with his technique, but his whole career.
Yeah. Right. But, okay, we can't talk about Kojiro without mentioning
Miyamoto Musashi.
Yeah, Miyamoto Musashi. It's like their destinies were intertwined.
Two masters, and they represented different approaches to swordsmanship.
Okay, so classic duel setup.
Right.
You've got Kojiro, master of the odachi, champion of tradition and a refined technique. And then there's Musashi, this maverick, dual-wielding...
Forging his own path.
But like, it wasn't just a physical fight, it was a clash of philosophies.
And what's fascinating is, even though Kojiro, he loses that duel,
Right.
His legacy, it hasn't faded. It's still going strong.
The Tsubame Gaeshi.
People are still studying it, debating it, analyzing it, even today.
So what is it about this technique, about Kojiro himself, that keeps inspiring people centuries later?
I think maybe it's his dedication, How he just kept refining his skills, his willingness to learn from different styles, that adaptability.
It's true, he was always pushing boundaries, wasn't he?
He was. It's like his life wasn't just about swords, it was about mastering something. That constant observation, taking inspiration from nature, that dedication to pushing limits. Those are things that can apply to anything, any field, really.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, what can we learn from his approach?
Yeah.
How can we be more observant, more adaptable, more dedicated to honing our skills? Like,
Right.
what's our swallow stone?
Yeah.
That mix of strength and agility that we need.
It's a great question. Something to think about for sure.
Yeah. And as you learn more about Kojiro,
Hmm.
pay attention to those details, the little things, the nuances of his technique, the philosophy behind his school.
You might just find that Kojiro, the master of the Swallow's Blades, still has some lessons for us.
Lessons we can apply even today.
Absolutely.
So keep diving, keep exploring. There's always more to discover.
There is.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Sasaki Kojiro. Until next time.
See you then.